I think one of the biggest reasons why dating can feel so exhausting is because it seems like we have to do it right, and there are so many different ways we can do it wrong. What I mean by that is there's so many different ways where we can pick the wrong person or end up in the wrong situation. And so we feel this massive pressure to predict the future. I think that's why we're exhausted in dating these days. I think even when people think about dating, they don't think about fun, they don't think about play. We think of it as this test. I'm testing them, they're testing me. I got to be perfect. I got to look for the red flags, and I got to find out if our core values are the same, and I got to listen to all these relationship coaches giving me advice about what makes a good partner, what makes a bad partner. I mean, it's just stressful. It'd be so stressful trying to get that right. And I think that's actually the problem, is we're trying to make sure we don't make any mistakes. I mean, think about anything you've tried to do in life where you tried to make sure you didn't make any mistakes. You made a ton of mistakes, and it wasn't fun, and it was full of pressure. And so there's this element of play missing. There's this element of freedom missing, to have us actually get to date and get to know each other and say yes to what we want to say yes to and say no to what we want to say no to, even if someone gets upset, even if maybe I embarrass myself and I get too excited. The quotations are there because I don't believe there's such a thing. Because we're so restricted in our dating experience when we go about it this way. Rather than letting ourselves play and have a sense of freedom, it's a task, it's a to-do list, it's a test. And it is just so ineffective, in my opinion, to, one, attracting our match, and two, cultivating any decency of a relationship. You know, if I'm in this constant lookout for anything that could be perceived as this person is a narcissist, or I'm being gaslit, or this red flag, or you aren't fully healed, or like, Jesus, can we give ourselves a break here? I think that's really missing, is this opportunity to let go of the idea that we have to do it perfectly. You know, I think that's really missing. So I just wanted to come on here and see if we could ease the pressure a little bit to this whole dating thing. If we can start to let ourselves play a bit. Doesn't mean you're wasting time. Doesn't mean you're not being intentional. It just might mean you're letting go of control a little bit. And if there's anything that my coaching is about, it's about helping people let go of trying to control or manipulate the circumstances, and instead actually influence them with ease, which is a whole new place to live from. You might see a difference, you might not. That's okay. So I'm going to stay on here and do a little bit of Q&A. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the question box, and I'll happily answer some questions. And just to really share with you guys to see if we can give ourselves permission to let go that, one, we have to be perfect on a date or in a text or in a chat, and two, that the other person doesn't have to be perfect. You know, that without a doubt, whoever you date, even if you're in the honeymoon stage right now and you really love them, there's something you're going to find out about that person that you're not such a huge fan of. And if we can just have some acceptance for that, I think we're going to have a lot more fun getting to know each other. That's my info for you. So if you have any questions, relationship-wise, coaching-wise, go ahead and leave them in the chat, and I will happily share an answer to your questions. And yes, this will be posted on my page in case you missed the beginning or any of it. Happy to do that. So I'm going to stay on for not long. I don't see any questions yet, so I'll stay on just for a minute or so here. If I see a question, and if I don't, I'll hop off. But yeah, I'd like to come on here and do some lives with you guys to share a little bit of my perspective and possibly invite you to a new perspective around relating, around connecting with each other. You know, I think about, when my wife first met one of the coaches on my coaching team. asked me, did you know you're going to marry your wife when you met her? I said, no, of course not. I barely knew her. I just knew I liked her. I knew I liked being around her. I knew we had chemistry. Even like maybe 2 weeks into dating, we were at someone's birthday party, and her and I were playing footsie or something under the table, or flirting or making jokes with each other, and someone asked us, how long have you been together? And I said, I met her 2 weeks ago. I said, oh, it seems like you guys have been in a relationship for years. So the chemistry was there, like, right off the bat, but I didn't know I was going to marry her. And I think the reason why we could have chemistry is because we weren't trying to do it right. We weren't trying to be perfect, and we weren't expecting the other person to be perfect. And I don't think you can have chemistry with a person if you're so busy trying to be perfect in that situation. It's rigid. It's too controlled. There's a dance missing. So that's my example for you to play with. All right, there I see a question. How do you establish relationships with our own selves? That's a pretty broad question. How do you establish a relationship with your own self? I think a great place to start, a lot of different places. I would start to journal more. I would start to share more about your thoughts and your different feelings that you have. I think journaling is a fantastic exercise. I think some people overdo it, but I think if you're wanting to get to know yourself better, I think journaling your thoughts, writing them out can be really valuable. I think asking people around you what their perspective of you can be interesting to get to know how you're showing up in front of other people. I have an exercise in my program around boundaries where I ask everyone in the group to reach out to 3 people in their life where they're going to ask them questions about how they see them in relationships. And that can be very insightful because you might think you're showing up one way and perhaps you're showing up a totally different way. So I think establishing a relationship to yourself, obviously I'm going to say coaching to almost every answer you guys give. Coaching is just a fast track to development. But yeah, there's a lot of ways you can do that. But I would start by doing some journaling. I'd start by asking more questions about other people around what they see about you and start to see if you agree with that or not. That'd be my invitation. His ex show up, shall I wait for him? I'm not sure what that means. His ex showed up. His ex showed up in the... Okay. His ex showed up, should you wait for him? I don't think it's ever a good idea to wait for anybody. I'll give you an example. So, my wife, her and I met in a different country, and I decided I was going to move to that country before I met her. And I told her that when I met her, because I didn't want her to wait for me to move there. I wanted her to do what she does and me to do what I do, and if it works, it works. And that was a really great dynamic for us to connect together without pressure. And so if you're waiting for someone to come back to you, if you're waiting for someone to finish a relationship, it's almost like your life's on pause. And it's really in someone else's hands. Your quality of life in someone else's hands. So I would caution waiting for anybody to have a certain relationship. I think that's going to put a lot of pressure on that person to come back into your life. There's a lot of strings attached there. And I think it's also going to put your life on pause. So I would do you, and if that person comes back and it works at the time they come back, great. But it sounds like if you were to wait for him, there's a lot of attachment there. And wherever we're attached, we're really giving away our power. So that's my suggestion for you there. The Real Tan Mom. That's a funny name. What do you do if you're in a relationship for yours and the other person is very stubborn and can't show his feelings the way you do, but you know he loves you? Okay, so you want this person to share their feelings more. That's what I'm hearing for that. And you say they're stubborn. So I've talked about this in a few other lives. We all have our own perspective of how we think people should share, how we think people should love. The challenge that we often fail to acknowledge is that's simply our perspective. It's not like how it should be. It's just what we think. And so this person isn't showing their feelings perhaps in the way that you would. And that doesn't mean they don't feel the same way you do. It does, however, mean that they would demonstrate their feelings in a different way than you. So part of this is adjusting your expectations, adjusting and looking for, like, for example, for some people, it's easy to say sorry. For other people, it's not so easy to say sorry. The actual words, I'm sorry. And so instead, maybe they offer a token appreciation by offering you a cup of coffee or putting a jacket on you. That's their providing peace. Now, is your way better or worse than theirs? Who gets to say? It's still an act of love. And so I would adjust your expectations for how this person's showing up, and doesn't mean you got to settle for something there, and create bite-sized opportunities or specific invitations for them to show love to you in a new way. And when I say that, I really mean specific, okay? One of the best things my wife and I did with each other is we actually taught each other how to love each other. It's not innate. We don't automatically know what someone likes, okay? Maybe you like back rubs, maybe he likes foot rubs. Neither are better or worse, they're just different things. Maybe you really appreciate a gift from the store, maybe he really appreciates quality time. Neither is better or worse, they're just different things. But if you can get really specific with that, then he'll know how to show love to you and practice that in a new way, in more the way that you want it to. You mentioned narcissism. Is it actually becoming more common in this generation? It's scary. No, narcissism is not becoming more common. We just love to label shit. I actually have such a huge problem with this. It's like an epidemic of people wanting to label each other. You're a narcissist, you're a gaslighter, you're anxious, you're avoidant. It actually, I think, rarely helps. If anything, I think it's distracting us from personal responsibility. The challenge with, and many people do this, labeling their ex as a narcissist, is as soon as you do that, you get to be void of responsibility for your part in how you ended up in that relationship. So even if you're right, which most of the time you're not right, they're actually not narcissistic. Narcissistic personality disorder is a diagnosed disorder. It is a very, very serious condition. Most of us are misinterpreting selfishness for narcissism. All right? Just because someone is thinking about themselves more than thinking about you doesn't necessarily make them narcissistic. It simply might just mean they're being more selfish than you would like. And so these labels and terms, I think we need to be way more careful of. Because I think we also do it in fights. You know, sometimes you picture yourself in a fight. You start calling each other names. Connection's over. Connection has left the building. Not permanently, but in that moment, you guys are not on the same team and you are just punching bags for each other. And so these labels, I think, are thrown around way too much on social media and probably in our actual relationships. So to answer your question, no, I don't think it's becoming more common in this generation. I just think we like to use the word a lot more. Brandon says, broke up with girlfriend, keeps going on and off. She's unsure, but she comes back after distancing multiple times. Painful. Yeah, of course it is. So there's an opportunity for you here. All right, I hear some clear boundaries missing, Brandon. There's probably ways that you'd like to, get clarity, and it's not from her, it's from you, and you're not standing for it. That's where the pain's coming from. Now, of course, you'd like her to just see this and not go back and forth, but that's over there with her. My coaching is always about coming back to ourselves. Where can I take responsibility? Where can I make a difference? Where can I have more influence than maybe I currently can see right now? So there's probably an invitation here where you actually want to say no to something and you're not right now. And so my invitation is to start to say no to whatever that is for you. And that pain's going to dissipate, my friend. New energy is going to reveal itself. Just scrolling here. Looking to see what the next question is. All right, let me open the question box. Sometimes you guys write the questions in the chat, sometimes in the question box. I don't know if they both show up there or not, but let's check the question box. After ending a relationship that's clearly not working out, is it a sign of codependency to find yourself thinking about good times when at the end you clearly saw a very different person from the person you thought they were? So is it codependency to think about the good times with someone after you broke it up with them? No, it's not. You're grieving. You're just grieving that person, right? And so as you grieve, it's easy to ruminate both on the really difficult times and have blame and anger and sadness. And it's also to ruminate on, those really good times you shared that you missed. So that's totally normal and extremely common during breakups. That's why they can be so hard, because we can start to make those good time memories mean that we should be together or it should have worked out. And that's usually not the case. It's more so the rose-tinted glasses have come on, and those good times might be magnified and to be bigger than they actually were, thus causing us to ignore what didn't work about the relationship. But it sounds like you're aware of what didn't work about the relationship. You're just having thoughts about the good times in the past. That's normal. There's nothing wrong. It's you just don't want to live there. You don't want to live in the past. It's normal to have thoughts about it. It's normal to contemplate that, but you just don't want to make it your full attention and focus. Instead, celebrate. Every person I've ever been with before my wife is someone who had a positive impact on my life, whether it was a painful breakup or not. They were a gift in some way, and to celebrate that, I think, is a worthwhile thing. Next person says, my ex just called me to meet her, but I've moved on and I'm in a happy relationship. Should I meet her? I think you just answered your question just in the question. What's the intention of meeting up? Like, if any of my exes called me right now to meet up, I'd say no. I wouldn't understand why they'd be calling me, and it wouldn't really matter. I mean, especially because I think when there isn't a clean break, it's easy to kind of still entangle each other in each other's lives. So like if we've broken up with someone and they're like, I need you, there's no way that I'm the only person they need. They probably could have called their friend or their parent or their brother or whoever else, and they called me because there's an attachment there. And so that's really an opportunity to say, there's a boundary to set here. I'm not the only person you can call, and I invite you to reach out to the people in your life to support you, because I'm not on that wavelength anymore. That's not me. So I think you trust your gut on that one, Cal. But yeah, I mean, I'd be thinking about number one right now, which is you. Number two is your partner that you're with right now. Your ex is, I'm sure, very far down that list. Do you have advice to keep going on dating? There will be someone for me. You must have missed the beginning of this conversation, because that's what it was all about. My main advice I was sharing before was around letting go of the idea that you need to be perfect on a date or that they need to be perfect on a date. I think that's what makes it not fun. It makes it like an interview. I blame a lot of people in my profession for this. A lot of us like to use these things of like, these are the 5 ways they're the one, or these are the 3 ways you should break up. And it's like, I actually don't think that helps. I think it makes people overthink and try to be perfect and try to see if their partner's perfect. And it's just an ineffective way to go about life. It's just so much pressure. So I just really invite us to bring some play back to it, to like, okay, I'm going to go on a date or 2 or 3 with you. Doesn't mean I'm going to marry you, and I might, and doesn't mean I'm going to fall in love with you, and I might, and I can leave anytime, and I can stay longer. Like this kind of like freedom. I think that's what needs to be coming back to dating. Not this pressure, not this like, oh my God, I need to make sure everything works out, and if I don't, then somebody won't like me and I'll be alone forever. It's like, that's not true. That's just not true. We're making that up in our head. So you can see I get a little animated and excited about this. Thank you so much for the message, Luke. I'm happy to share. It's a privilege to get to do this work and to make a difference for people in their relationships. Yeah, you got it, Brandon. You're going to set these boundaries, man. You know what to do. It doesn't have to be huge, but you know what to do. It's time to trust your gut. You're so welcome, Mimi. I'm so glad you said my videos saved you from depression after heartbreak. That means a lot to me. It really does. Thank you for sharing that. I don't know all the people. I don't know you guys. I don't know who sees my videos, and they go around the world, and it's a huge privilege to be doing this work and to have so many people open to engage in it. But your message, you guys, really mean a lot to me. So thank you for that. It's very motivating for me. I just recorded 4 more for you today, by the way. Why do I end up speaking so fast when I see a beautiful girl? It seems I'm unable to establish connection. Oh, I love that you would own that. So, why are you speaking so fast when you see a beautiful girl? Well, because you're feeling embarrassed and insecure, and you're trying to make up for that by filling the gaps in conversation, by speaking quickly, by not pausing in between. So, one of the most confident things we can do, and I actually practice it with you guys right now. Like if I was talking really fast, that would be me like compensating, right? That'd be me trying to cover something up. And so it's actually can be more attractive, more connecting when we pause in conversations, when we give ourselves moments to speak and actually sit in the awkwardness and knowing that we're not going to die. There's a kind of confidence in that. Extra long pause for you here. So, creative soul, person who just wrote that question, that's the reason why. But the reason why is less important. More so is what you're going to do about it. So, to establish connection, that's actually in this pause that I'm doing with you right now. So, the next time you're talking to a girl that you think is attractive, slow it down. I invite you to actually slow your conversation way down. And if anything, actually let yourself be awkward in the silence. And just see what happens. I bet you a whole new sense of confidence is going to come from that. All right. One or two more, and then I got to go check on my baby and my wife. Someone says, I broke up, reflected on it, especially with my part. I noticed patterns, and I'm now informing myself to do better. However, I'm in a loop with those thoughts. Date to move forward. I would need a more specific question. What are the thought loop that you're in? That would help me be able to answer that more specifically. You're welcome, Cal. Thanks for sharing. How to heal a hurt ego due to ghosting. How to heal a hurt ego due to ghosting. Yeah, so ghosting can feel like a personal rejection, like there's something wrong with me and I've been left behind, and that's hurting the ego. That's hurting you. And so the perspective shift becomes, if somebody didn't want to be in your life and they exited your life, that's a win. The why is unimportant. The what is way more important. So much of our pain is because of the why. Why did this happen? Why do you feel that way? Why did that happen? Like, it's just a lot of leading to disempowering answers. The what, however, is a way more valuable place to look. What happened? They stopped messaging me. They disappeared. Okay, so someone who didn't want to be in my life is no longer in my life. Great. I didn't have to remove them myself. That's a win. And here's the context shift too. You want to be with someone who wants to be with you, don't you? I want to be with someone who wants to be with me. And if you don't want to be with me, okay, great. I'm not going to make you want to be with me. That's not going to work. And so it's a gift. Now, I'm still trying to discourage everybody from ghosting because it's just, to me, weakness and avoidance and bad habit. But I hope that gives you some solace there. All right, last one. Do both need marriage counseling for a marriage to work? There's no communication, clear communication. Everything ends up with a fight and is very reactive. No, both partners do not need to go to marriage counseling for the marriage to work. I think it would be more effective if both did get marriage counseling or coaching. I work with a number of couples as well. However, you can certainly have your marriage work or create the possibility of it working even if just one of you is going to counseling. Because the idea is to arm you with the tools so that you can influence the relationship in the direction that you intend to. All right, so it doesn't have to be that way, but it's definitely going to be, I think, easier if you are doing this work together. In my group program that I do, Love Over Fear, I always offer a discount for couples. So if a couple comes in, typically one person wants to do the coaching more than the other person. That's usually the one I'm talking to first. They can sign up for the program, and then I invite their spouse to join us, at a heavily discounted rate, because I just believe if they're both doing it, it's just going to exponentially increase the value of the work. All right, you guys, you're amazing. Thank you so much for joining this live. Thank you for your questions. I'll be coming on more and more. I know I haven't done this for a little while. But again, thank you for the questions. Thank you for being people who want to influence your relationships, who want to have more love and connection, who want to be more yourselves. This life is a huge gift. It's a wonderful, lucky thing that we get to have it. And what a great use of our time to looking at how it can be better and better. Sending you love, guys, from around the world, and we'll talk to you later.